A storm is building inside Dutton Ranch, and this time, it is not coming from the outside. It is rising from within the family itself. Every secret, every betrayal, and every silent war that was buried for years is now coming back to life. And at the center of it all stands Rip, more dangerous than ever before, because when Rip stops holding back, nobody is safe from what comes next. Dutton Ranch, Episode 8, begins in the aftermath of broken trust. The celebration that was meant to honor legacy has now become a memory nobody wants to speak about. What should have brought the family together has instead pushed them further apart. The air around the ranch feels heavier, like something invisible has settled over every corner of the land. Nothing feels stable anymore. Every smile hides tension, and every silence feels like it is hiding a threat. Rip is no longer the man who simply follows orders. Something inside him has changed. The patience he once carried like armor is now wearing thin. He has spent too many years protecting a family that still refuses to fully accept him. And now, after everything that has happened, he is starting to question how long he can keep holding himself back. There is a quiet intensity in him, the kind that does not need loud words. It is the kind that builds slowly until it finally explodes. Beth notices it first. She always does. She can see that Rip is not just angry, he is calculating, watching, waiting. There is something different in the way he moves through the ranch now, like he is no longer trying to prevent a war, but preparing for one. Beth tries to pull him back, tries to remind him that every wrong move could destroy everything they have built. But even she can feel it slipping. The control they once had over the situation is no longer in their hands. At the same time, Rob Will's return continues to poison every conversation on the ranch. He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. His presence alone is enough to create division. Every word he speaks is designed to reopen old wounds, to remind people of debts that were never settled. He does not act like a guest. He acts like a man who believes he was wronged and has come back to collect what he thinks is his. Bullers finds herself trapped in the center of it all. The weight of leadership has never felt heavier. Every decision she makes creates a new enemy. Every attempt to restore order only pushes the chaos further. She is not just protecting land anymore, she is trying to hold together a family that is quietly falling apart in front of her eyes. And for the first time, doubt starts to creep in. Not doubt about the ranch, but about the people she thought she could trust to protect it with her. Meanwhile, Carter is reaching a breaking point that nobody fully understands yet. He moves through the ranch like someone carrying invisible damage. He tries to stay strong, tries to stay useful, but the silence inside him is growing louder. The loss he has suffered is not something he has processed. It is something he has buried. And buried pain does not disappear. It waits. Rip sees it in him. That is what makes everything more complicated. Because Rip knows what it looks like when someone is standing too close to the edge. And yet, even with that understanding, he has no room left to fix anyone else. His own problems are closing in. His loyalty is being tested from every direction. And the more he tries to stay controlled, the more dangerous he becomes. Rob Will continues to work in the background, carefully. He is not rushing anything. He is not forcing confrontation. Instead, he is letting the ranch do the work for him. Every disagreement he sparks, every doubt he plants, every moment of tension he allows to grow, it is all part of something larger. And the most dangerous part is that nobody can prove it. Not yet. Beth starts to notice this pattern. She realizes Rob Will is not simply reacting to chaos, he is shaping it. And that realization changes everything. Because if he is truly controlling the conflict, then this is no longer just a family problem. It is a strategy, a long game, and they are already inside it. The ranch itself begins to feel like it is splitting in two. One side still believes in unity, in keeping the legacy intact no matter the cost. The other side is starting to think survival means taking control before someone else does. Lines are being drawn quietly, without announcements, without meetings, just decisions, small choices that slowly separate people from each other. Rip stands at the center of that divide, whether he wants to or not. He is respected, feared and misunderstood all at once. Some see him as the only thing holding the ranch together. Others see him as a threat waiting to happen. And the truth is becoming harder to hide. Both might be right. And as the episode moves forward, one thing becomes clear. This is no longer about who owns the ranch. It is about who is willing to do what it takes to control its future. And Rip, pushed far enough, is no longer promising restraint. He is becoming something else entirely. The pressure inside Dutton Ranch does not fade as the morning breaks. If anything, it grows heavier, as if the land itself remembers every betrayal that has ever happened on it. Nothing feels settled anymore. Every step taken across the ranch seems to echo with unfinished conflict. The people who once moved with purpose now move with hesitation, as though even the air might turn against them. Rip becomes the center of attention without trying to be. It is not because he demands it, but because people can feel the change in him. There is a shift in the way he observes everything now. He is no longer simply reacting. He is measuring. Every word spoken around him is being weighed. Every decision made without him is being silently judged. The man who once trusted the system of the ranch is now quietly questioning whether the system still deserves his loyalty. Beth tries to keep him grounded, but even she is struggling to reach him fully. There is a distance forming between them, not emotional, but strategic. Rip is thinking in consequences now, not comfort. He is thinking about outcomes, not peace. Beth can see that this version of him is more dangerous than anything they have faced before, because he is not driven by anger alone. He is driven by certainty, the certainty that something must change, and soon. At the same time, Rob Will continues to tighten his grip over the emotional fractures inside the ranch. He does not create chaos directly anymore. Instead, he lets others do it for him. A suggestion here, a reminder there. A carefully chosen silence at the exact wrong moment. His presence is becoming less like a person and more like a trigger. Every interaction around him carries weight, and he knows exactly how to use that weight without lifting a finger. Bullers begins to feel the exhaustion of leadership more deeply than ever. It is not just physical tiredness. It is the constant pressure of being responsible for every possible outcome. Every time she tries to restore balance, something else breaks. Every attempt to protect one relationship damages another. She starts to understand that leadership in this moment is not about making the right choice. It is about choosing which loss she can survive. Carter's emotional struggle continues to grow in silence. He does not openly ask for help, and that is what makes it more dangerous. His pain is contained, but containment has limits. There are moments when he stops mid-task, lost in thought, as if something inside him is pulling him backward while the world keeps moving forward. People notice, but no one knows how to reach him without making things worse. Rip notices him more than most. There is an unspoken recognition between them. Two people carrying burdens they cannot fully explain. But even that connection is strained now because Rip is being pulled in too many directions. He cannot afford emotional distraction. Every choice he makes now could tip the balance of the ranch into something irreversible. Meanwhile, Rob Will begins to shift attention toward ownership conversations again, but not directly. He frames everything in questions, in memories, in suggestions that sound harmless on the surface, but carry deeper intent underneath. He speaks as if he is simply revisiting history, but every sentence is designed to reopen unresolved claims. Slowly, people start to question things they once accepted without doubt. This is where the real danger begins to surface. Not in confrontation, but in doubt. Because once doubt enters a family like this, it does not leave quietly. It spreads. It attaches itself to every decision. And soon, people stop trusting not only each other, but their own judgment. Beth becomes increasingly aware of this shift. She starts to realize that Rob Will's strategy is not about force. It is about erosion. He is not trying to take the ranch in a single move. He is trying to weaken the foundation so that it collapses on its own. And the most terrifying part is how subtle it all is. Nothing he does looks like an attack until you step back and see the pattern. Rip finally voices something, not loudly, but firmly. A warning. A line that feels less like an opinion and more like a decision forming. He does not say what he will do, but it is clear that his patience is no longer infinite. There is a shift in energy around him that others begin to notice. Conversations change when he enters the room. People become more careful, more aware, more cautious about what they say. Bullers tries once again to hold everything together, but even she begins to understand that unity is becoming harder to maintain. The ranch is no longer one system. It is multiple factions existing under the same roof, and each faction believes it is acting in the ranch's best interest. As the tension continues to rise, a quiet realization spreads through the episode. The biggest threat is no longer external. It is internal misalignment. Everyone is fighting for something different, even if they all claim to be fighting for the same thing. And Rip, standing in the middle of it all, is no longer just watching the collapse begin. He is deciding what role he will play in it when it finally does. By the time Dutton Ranch Episode 8 moves deeper into its middle act, the tension is no longer something that can be ignored. It is everywhere now, woven into every conversation, every glance, every silence that stretches a little too long. The ranch is no longer operating like a single-family unit. It feels divided, unstable, and quietly preparing for something nobody is willing to say out loud. Rip's presence becomes even more dominant, not through action, but through anticipation. People begin to adjust their behavior around him, not because he demands fear, but because his silence has become unpredictable. There is a new edge to him now, something colder, more focused. He is no longer simply reacting to threats. He is evaluating them. And worse for everyone around him, he is starting to accept that some threats cannot be negotiated with. Beth struggles with this shift more than she admits. She knows Rip better than anyone, but even she is beginning to feel that he is operating a few steps ahead of her emotionally. Where she still tries to manage outcomes, Rip is already thinking in terms of endings. Not conversations, not warnings. Endings. That difference between them is becoming more dangerous than any external conflict. Rob Will continues to operate like a quiet storm inside the ranch. He does not escalate situations directly. Instead, he leaves space for people to misunderstand each other. A half-truth here, a delayed response there, a memory brought up at just the right time. His strategy is patient, almost invisible, and that is what makes it effective. People do not realize they are being influenced until they are already divided. Bullers feels this fragmentation more than anyone. The burden of leadership is no longer just about decision-making. It is about emotional containment. She is constantly trying to prevent collapse in places she cannot physically reach. Every time she resolves one issue, another begins forming somewhere else. The ranch is starting to feel less like something she leads, and more like something she is trying to prevent from breaking completely. Carter's internal struggle intensifies in ways that are becoming harder to hide. His silence is no longer peaceful. It is heavy. There are moments when he looks like he is present, but not fully there, as if part of him is still stuck in the past, unable to move forward. The people around him sense the change, but they do not know how to approach it without making him retreat further into himself. Rip notices this more clearly now. There is a familiarity in Carter's silence that Rip understands too well. It is the silence of someone who is trying not to fall apart in front of others. But Rip also understands something else. Survival sometimes requires pushing forward, even when everything inside is breaking. And that belief begins to shape how he interacts with the world around him. Oriana's role becomes more complicated as she continues to drift between loyalty and doubt. She is no longer just observing the conflict. She is being pulled into it, slowly, without realizing how deep she is already involved. Her connection to Carter keeps her emotionally anchored, but the growing instability around her family forces her to question what she is truly willing to stand behind. At the same time, Hayne's frustration reaches a point where it cannot be ignored anymore. He has given everything to the ranch, yet recognition continues to slip further away from him. There is a quiet bitterness forming inside him, not explosive, but persistent, the kind that builds over time until even small moments feel like proof of being overlooked. And now, for the first time, he starts to consider what happens if loyalty is no longer enough. Rob Will senses this frustration in others. That is what makes him dangerous. He does not need to create division from nothing. He only needs to amplify what already exists. Every insecure thought, every unresolved grievance, every unspoken resentment becomes fuel for his influence. And slowly, that influence begins to reshape how people see each other. Beth begins to connect the pattern more clearly now. What once looked like random tension is starting to reveal structure. Rob Will is not just involved in conflict, he is orchestrating alignment. Not toward unity, but toward fracture. Each relationship strained, each trust weakened, each disagreement escalated is part of a larger design that is becoming harder to ignore. Rip, however, is no longer waiting to fully understand the design. He is reaching a point where understanding no longer matters as much as action. There is a growing sense that he is preparing himself for a line that, once crossed, cannot be undone. It is not spoken. It is not announced. But it is felt by everyone who knows him well. Bullers tries to maintain control, but control itself is becoming an illusion. The ranch is no longer responding to leadership in a unified way. It is reacting in fragments. Different people, different motives, different interpretations of what survival means. And in that fragmentation, authority weakens naturally, even without being challenged directly. As the episode moves toward its final stretch, the emotional pressure reaches a new level. Conversations become sharper, patience becomes shorter. Even small misunderstandings escalate faster than before. It is as if the ranch itself is running out of room for restraint. And in the middle of it all, Rip remains steady on the surface, but increasingly dangerous underneath it. Not because he is losing control, but because he is finally accepting that control may no longer be enough to fix what is coming. Something inside the ranch is approaching a breaking point, and everyone can feel it, even if no one is willing to say it yet. The closer Dutton Ranch Episode 8 moves toward its final act, the more it feels like the entire ranch is holding its breath. Nothing is calm anymore. Even the quiet moments feel temporary, like they exist only to delay what everyone already knows is coming. The tension is no longer hidden under conversations or disagreements. It is sitting openly between people, unspoken but undeniable. Rip is no longer trying to stabilize the situation in the way he once did. There is a shift in him now, subtle but unmistakable. He is still disciplined, still controlled, but the emotional distance between him and everyone else has widened. It is not that he does not care. It is that caring is no longer enough to guide his decisions. Something harder is forming underneath that restraint, something final. Beth becomes increasingly alert to this change. She knows Rip's patterns better than anyone, and she recognizes the signs of a man who has already started preparing for outcomes others have not accepted yet. She tries to reach him, tries to pull him back into shared thinking, but the gap between them is no longer just emotional. It is philosophical. Beth still believes the situation can be managed. Rip is beginning to believe it can only be survived. Rob Will continues to operate in the background like a constant pressure system. He does not need to be present in every scene anymore. His influence is already embedded in the decisions people are making. The most dangerous part of his strategy is that he never forces anyone to act. He only creates conditions where people begin to act against each other on their own. Bullers feels that pressure more intensely with every passing moment. Leadership has become a constant state of damage control. There is no longer time to solve problems properly, only time to contain them. And containment is failing. Every attempt to restore unity results in new fractures forming somewhere else. The ranch is no longer responding as one system. It is reacting like multiple unstable pieces held together by habit alone. Carter's emotional state reaches a point where even silence begins to feel unstable. He is no longer simply struggling internally. He is carrying a weight that is starting to affect how he moves, how he speaks, how he reacts. There is a visible exhaustion in him now, not physical alone, but emotional fatigue that comes from holding in too much for too long. People around him can sense it, even if they do not fully understand it. Rip notices Carter more sharply in this part of the episode. There is something familiar in the way Carter is starting to shut down parts of himself. It is not identical to Rip's own experience, but close enough to recognize. That recognition creates tension inside Rip because it reminds him of a truth he does not want to fully acknowledge. That emotional suppression does not protect people forever. It only delays collapse. It is shaped by what he is willing to do when the breaking point finally arrives.